Thank you. Fortunately, for those of you just joining us, we haven't said a whole lot that's hugely essential. What we're starting to talk about, though, is discussion 4. And what we want to look at is how to address it. So you're going to need to pick a couple of articles. And then if you will look at that PowerPoint, the first hyperlink, then the thing that gets you most confused typically is the template for critical appraisals. Let's open it up. Yeah. And it has some things at the top that can be helpful, okay? So I don't know if you all have that template open, but if you'll skip those hyperlinks and look at that table, so what you're looking at is whatever article you have found. And some of you were having trouble with some of the suggested ones, but that's no big deal. Just find another one. And somebody was texting me, or maybe Andy, was it you? Asking, what if you couldn't find something I'd provided? Well, as long as it is like not Wikipedia or USA Today. I'm not even a huge fan of psychologytoday.com. Steer clear of the .coms if you want me not to be marking them out. But if you will look at whatever article you find that you think might be useful, and then hold it up against this template, that's a way to get started. So,
and is one adequate, Dr. Walker?
No, you're gonna have to do at least 2.
And do 2 within that same rubric.
You can do 2 rubrics. You can do 2 within the same rubric. I will be able to tell the difference.
And are we supposed to be modifying the rubric that you have laid out, correct?
Okay.
That's like a guide, right?
Okay. So that's how this assignment was born. This assignment was born so that you would take it and make it your own. But for a couple of years, students have just used it. And that's okay. I just want you to know that you can tinker with it. You can change it. You can make it different. Or you can try to use it. So let's just talk our way through it and keep asking questions like you're doing. So, systematic review. Do you think the results of the article are valid? So, what question did the article address? You know, was it, is, I don't know, DBT useful with Hispanic adolescents who abuse marijuana? So the main question being addressed should be clearly stated. Is it? In the article, do you know what they're looking for or at? So whatever it is they're doing, such as a therapy or a diagnostic test, and the outcome should be expressed. And this template suggests it's in terms of a simple relationship. Does that make sense to anybody?
Yes. But,
okay.
But, so if
don't
at
do
the
the
outset,
Jane, don't do the but first.
Okay.
Do the part that makes sense first, because you don't want to freak out. It makes sense,
Dr. Walker. It makes sense, Dr. Walker.
Okay. So what part of it makes sense? How could you use that?
Because we would use that as the selection criteria for 2 different articles that would answer a question about DBT for client X who we intend to profile throughout the course.
Yes, exactly. So, yes. So now I'll let you do the but part.
It's a small but. It's very small. If it didn't pass the sniff test for validity at the outset, then why on earth would we choose it?
You wouldn't.
Okay. All right.
You wouldn't.
That
But
was it.
here's the other but, though. You're going to have to explain why it doesn't.
Rather than just not using it, because I would I'm not going to use
your
it.
life will be easier 6 weeks from now if you don't use it.
Right. Okay.
But if you choose to use it but reject it, it's okay to talk about why you rejected it. Does that make sense? Heads up, head sideways. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I can only imagine that we would do that if we were either masochistic or we were focusing on something so narrow that there was no additional scholarly literature out there.
Or it's Sunday afternoon at 3:00 your time and you live on the, West Coast. Yeah.
There is that.
So
but this one is due tomorrow, right? No.
I don't
Sunday.
know.
Oh. Okay.
Courtney seems to have a serious belief
Sunday.
when this is due.
Okay, I'm obviously confused. Sorry, I'm confused. Yeah.
So I have a question, Dr. Walker,
Okay.
please. So are the articles we're reviewing, are they going to have anything? Because what I got from this assignment is review an article, pretty much, and tell you about it in terms of this table.
Yes.
Like it was really simple until I logged onto this class.
Okay. However, let's say that you review an article that bears no relationship to the client that you're going to be working with before the semester's over. You've wasted your time because you're going to need to do this over.
Okay, so then part of the assignment that's not there is go ahead and pick your client and begin the literature review. Is that what this is? We're starting a literature review?
This isn't the lit review, but yes, pick your client, because if you go to all this effort on a totally unrelated diagnosis somehow, you've just wasted that time because you can't use it in the paper, right? Everybody else kind of getting that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's week 6. Is that when you introduce the Sanchez family?
Well, you've got them now, so.
Okay,
yeah.
but where we can find them in week 6, or where can we find them?
They are somewhere. Like the last couple of weeks ago, I stuck them up in an announcement or something so that you could go ahead and have the Sanchez's. Other people have seen the Sanchez's, right? Somebody email the hyperlink to Courtney. Okay, yes? Can I get a commitment? Somebody's going to help Courtney out, right?
Can someone send it to me as well? Because I haven't
I'll
seen
do it. I'll send it.
Thank you,
around.
Jane.
I'll send it. Yep.
Thank you.
Yes. Because I was so proud of myself because you guys wanted it early, and so I gave it to you early. I know I did.
And so you're not wanting us to turn this in like in this template format, are you?
You'll be better off if you use the template, yes. Because it's easy to know whether you did it or not.
So, I mean, like, where's there a blank template? Because I can't create that. And
Well, it's a Word document. You can remove the words. Right?
It's editable. It can be edited.
Yes, it's editable. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a nice grown-up word. Yes, it can be edited.
So just to clarify, we'll have 2 of those templates on our discussion post.
Or, I'm just telling you what other people have done. Other people have crammed 2 clumps of words in every box.
Okay, but
I
you're
don't care. And that's what I was telling Jane. I'll figure it out.
Okay. And you're okay with us using that template, not creating our own, even though, okay, good.
And it still has to be APA format, you
And
said this morning.
yes, the template lives in the middle of the paper, but the words at the beginning where you talk about Mr. Sanchez has a problem with machismo and how are we going to deal with it, blah, blah, blah. Then you have the template, the box, where you evaluate the 2 articles that you had. And then at the bottom, you've got your reference section so that it's APA, right?
And with the APA, are you wanting us to attach that in? Because I'm just wondering, like, if we need a title page and we need all those other things, so we would attach the Word document to the post that would have the title page, then our section of APA, then our temp. I'm just wondering, like, I don't know how to put that in a post without attaching a Word document.
You can attach a Word document.
Christina, it'll be okay, I promise.
It will, Christina, it will.
Well, I feel like I don't know anything about any assignment, and I'm just having to piece it together here and there, and I don't like that. I want to know what the assignment is. I want you to give us directions, and then we can go from there. But I feel like I'm guessing everything, and it raises my frustration level way up here.
I believe that I have addressed that fairly clearly in the previous session. So if you want to go back and watch those videos, you'll see me discuss how this is more like the real world will be for you as a social worker. The truth, the entire truth of the matter is that this actually has more of a safety net than your real world parallel will have. Because I'm here to answer the questions that are confusing you. I'm here to help you with those, where in some jobs, I've seen it happen, you know, the boss is like, figure this out. You have an MSW, come on. And by the time you finish this course, you'll be better prepared to do that. Not just in the context of evidence-based practice and research, but in the context of taking responsibility for your own actions and figuring out what needs to happen. There is no expectation that you're going to get from here to November alone out there on the Iditarod, just you and the dogs. I mean, it's not like that. I'm here, but I am not going to tell you precisely what to do. Neither is your boss, unless you've got a boss that you're going to be really sick of within 6 months because you're being micromanaged.
Well, I'm sorry, can I ask you, it seems like I texted you and said, are you looking for more sources on the major content paper than our textbook? And you said yes. So it seems like last week, like you gave us a specific number, but I can't remember. Like, are you looking for so many outside sources for our major content paper, or?
Hold on a minute.
The directions don't even, don't really say. Like, you want two.
Christina.
Yes.
Breathe and do something besides be accusatory, please.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm unclear. How about that? I'm unclear.
Yes, I get that. That is a slightly nicer way to be accusatory, but I'll take it. So, major content assignment.
Christina, I'm looking back at my notes, and you can go back to the video, but it says she talked about 2 to 3, and she gave us 3 or 2 different videos we could watch with it, and then the book. So that would be 3 right there.
Right there.
But that's what I'm seeing from my notes, which that's just what I interpreted, but that's what I'm seeing in my notes.
You know, that is fine. One would seldom anywhere be enough. Because one, you could be looking it up on Breitbart, and getting a really skewed perspective. But you're looking for balance. You're looking for the best way to know how to work with your client. Okay?
Professor, I had a question. Can we go back to the assignment we were just on where you were talking about the templates? And let's say that I want to just tweak a little bit of that. What would that look like? Like if I'm looking at the assignment right now, so I'm going to flip to the assignment. And let's say for, I like the what question did the systematic review address, but then F is it likely, unlikely that important relevant studies were missed? So let's say I don't like that question and I want to ask something else because that fits in what I'm doing. So do I take that whole section out and then redo the next box down of what is best? I would redo that.
Okay.
And then
yes. So let me just give you an example. What I would suggest that you do, and again, this isn't the only way to do it. So if Amy's sitting there going, oh dear, I was going to do it a whole different way. Oh, what am I going to, it's okay. It's okay. But if what you want is to ask a different question, put that in that slightly blue box, and then put a way to be interpreting it, figuring it out, instead of the words, what is best, and instead of where do I find the information, although that's not a bad thing to have in there. And then answer it in the boxes directly below that have all those words in there. Does that make sense? You can do an awful lot of editing and changing it up, is what I'm saying. I just want to know that you have the two important words in this assignment are critical and appraise, right? You are looking at least 2 articles on probably, I'm guessing, ways to help your client that you've identified using the demographics of your client, the diagnosis of your client, whatever it is. And you're being critical about this. You're being thoughtful and focused, and you're wanting to know exactly whether it works or not, whether it's a good thing or not. And so if there's a better thingy to go in the blue-gray box, do, and use it to tell me that you have critically appraised that article. And you can look up critical appraisal. It's a thing. You can watch that PowerPoint. It's going to tell you that other people actually do this stuff, that it is a valuable thing to do in practice. Critical appraisal is a good thing.
And just to clarify, kind of right before the critical appraisal, we should probably, like you said, introduce the client that maybe we're choosing, give you the demographics and the diagnoses so you understand that we chose some articles related to that.
Exactly, Amy. You want me to know how you got to this article that you're critically appraising. And then it's within the context of the client, right? That you're trying to figure out if this is helpful or not. I mean, if you're, if all the stuff you look up deals with individuals who use wheelchairs, but your client doesn't, you've probably got a little bit of a fuzzy thing going on. It's not going to be all that helpful to your client. It's not a bad thing to know.
And does that introduction to our client an explanation of why we chose these particular bits of research, does that comprise the introduction?
Sure.
So the cover page and that as the introduction, and then
yes, yes.
Okay. And then a conclusion afterwards.
I think you'll need a small conclusion.
Okay.
You'll need a small
and then references. Okay.
And then your references.
Okay.
I would suggest that you have that that sample APA paper printed up in front of you, because if your reference page looks all that different from their reference page, I bet you theirs is right. And I would really like for yours to look like theirs.
Professor, I'm just wondering, when we're doing the APA paper, does anyone know if you can copy and paste over into the paper? Like if I'm using the professor's squares,
you should be able to.
I can just pull it.
If you're working on a Word document.
Mm-hmm.
So let me look at this thing real quick. Yes, okay. So I wish I could, I guess I could show you my screen, but we'd probably be here till 7 o'clock. When I have the Word document open, that's called the Template for Critical Appraisal, when I move my cursor around on it, a little tiny plus sign shows up in the upper left-hand corner. And if I click on that, it'll, normally it does. Oh, there we go. It will make a bigger plus sign, and that means I can copy it. Then I take it to a whole nother Word document and paste it under what Jane was talking about, under the description of the Sanchez person, right? I'll give you a weird little tip, though. If you're having trouble with this, put your cursor on the left of the template, hit return a few times, type above it, and then type below it, and then you don't have to copy and paste. Does that, anybody ever done that? It's the lazy person's way, but it works pretty well. And then, okay, so who knows what font we use?
Times New
Roman 12.
Including on the running head. Because I guarantee you, how many of you are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 12 of you. I guarantee you, 2 of you have an Arial running head. You just do. Fix it.
Does the chart have to be in Times New Roman? Because I'm looking at it right now and it's not.
No.
Okay.
And it's not, the table's technically not APA.
That's what I was asking this morning. I obviously was inarticulate early in the morning.
Well,
That's what I was asking. Yeah.
That just saved me, like, whew, because I was like, I have to redo this whole template. Like, thank you.
good. Okay, so now we've sort of talked about that. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so now we have 2 options. One is to go back to the modules and look at what's next. The other is there anything giving anybody particular heartburn?
I just had, sorry, I feel like I'm asking a lot of questions, but I feel like I have you right here, so I'm going to ask.
That's the point.
So I'm wondering about the assignment. You talk about no .coms, no things like that, but in the researchy one where you talk about linking something going on that we're reading into
fine.
what, that's fine, because I pulled a CNN article
That's fine. That's
pulled,
fine.
okay. Okay.
Again, you don't want to go too far on the fluff side, but something like that's fine.
And just to clarify with that, we're just taking the article, reading the article, and then linking it of what kind of our opinion is and linking it back to what we're doing in the assignment or what we're doing with this class.
Here's the point. Here's the point of all that. And the reason I love those assignments. I want 3 years from now, you to still see or hear news like that and think, oh, wow, you know, that's something I could use for my client. That's something I could use in my agency. And I want you, the reason that there's so many of them is I want you to see the world that way. I want you to see that whatever it is you're seeing, for example, the CNN thing, I want you to get it, that that's research. Research is learning stuff. Okay? And so that's why I allow that one to be broader, Courtney.
Is this, Courtney, the Tell Us Something New assignments? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that's what I was talking about. And I was actually taking the other realm of it, of that there's an article that came on Facebook, and so I was using that article as in, and then linking back to the True article where they talk about social worker caseloads
Yes.
leading to this.
Yes.
And so, but I'm taking the other side that isn't actually what cause and effect is. That isn't causing
Good.
it.
And I want you to be thinking about that. You know, I want you to be thinking about what cause and effect is. I want you to be thinking about correlation does not imply causation. Those silly little, like, how many Bulgarians moved to Germany, and it's the exact same, chart as how many people eat chocolate ice cream versus vanilla in Queens. Those are the things I want you to see as research, and that they're important. And so, cool.
So my
these,
son walked, oh, I'm sorry. This
No.
was just a story to make everybody smile. So my son walked into the middle school where he's teaching mindfulness. And on the wall, there was a poster of a dinosaur upside down with its legs up in the air like a dead bug. And it said, dinosaurs didn't read or they wouldn't be extinct.
That's a good one.
Very cute, right? So all the kids, of course, want to learn to read, but I thought that could also be used in the science class to talk about correlation versus causality. Like,
Right there. And now you guys all know it. Yes. Okay.
Dr. Walker,
Yeah.
does the Tell Me Something New be like an article? Does it have to be an article?
Okay. She just was talking about CNN. I mean, no, it can be. I'm not crazy about your next door neighbor lady telling you something out in the garden, but because that's a little hard to cite. But it can be anything that you come across in something close to your academic life, or that you can reach out and tie to your academic life. But no, it doesn't have to be an article. It doesn't have to be peer-reviewed journal something. No.
and it's going to look very different for each of us probably every week. There's
Every
not
week.
Anybody looking the same on this assignment would be
No.
my guess. Okay.
No, but I have more fun, reading the stuff. It's so cool. I had never heard of moral injury. You might know about moral injury. It's very interesting. Worth a quick look up. And I didn't know about it till I saw it in somebody's post. That's what takes so long to grade, because then I have to go read a whole bunch of stuff about moral injury.
I have a question.
Okay.
I just want to be clear, the discussion for the critical appraisal does not have to be APA.
Yes. The beginning of it is APA. That template is kind of plugged in there, and then the end is APA. The title page is definitely APA, and the reference page is definitely APA.
Okay, and then, so we have two APA style things to turn in, the discussion for and the major content assignment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Nobody ever died from too much APA. You think you will, but you really don't.
can we talk for a moment about the major content assignment?
Yes. You're going to want to allow a little time at the end to talk about question formulation, but certainly we can. The major, let me tell you the background on the major content assignment. It's more like giving you some tools. It doesn't have much to do with the Sanchez's or an intervention, any of that stuff, but it is some tools. So, for example, you need to have a handle on reliability and validity. They're not going to show up much in your final paper. They're not going to have much to do with the Sanchez's, but it's important that you understand them, right? Just in general, it's important that you understand them. Now, question, I'm sure open for a question. I got the assignment up.
So I have a question when it comes to when we spoke about this last week, you were really stressing the fact of defining different terms. And I wanted to make sure that as we define these different terms, and it's going to flow through the paper in different places, I assume.
I would think so. When you get to looking at the final rubric for the signature assignment, you'll see that some of those things pop up in it. So, Jane, aren't you the one who wanted to talk about this?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I thought it would be useful to just touch on it since it's the other big one.
Okay, so if we're going to...
I feel comfortable.
Okay, so I want you to, for example, there's a significant difference between internal validity and external validity. And I need an example of each that shows me that you grasp the difference. So, like, there's a huge difference between a salad and a cheeseburger, right? But I don't want you just to say a salad is different from a cheeseburger. I want you to explain the difference so that I'll know that you get it. You're going to want to touch on time order, correlation, plausible alternatives, history, maturation, regression to the mean. Address why measurement validity matters, because it does, and it's going to matter as you're looking at your critical appraisal, for example. Measurement validity could easily factor in there. Tell me what statistical conclusion validity is, and regression to the mean. I know this kind of stuff is really boring, and it's not social work, but it's bricks that you need to be able to understand the concepts that we're looking at. So provide an example, but not close enough to your author, so I'm not sure you understand it.
Just a question about clarifying that too.
Sure.
So let's say so I'm putting the definition down. I'm citing the definition where it talks about it in the book, because the book is pretty thorough on those things.
It is. I think he does a good job.
Yeah, and I mean funny too in parts.
Yes.
But so I put that down, I said it, and then I use an example that I've come up with on my own that relates back to that. Is that correct?
Yes. Or found somewhere else, or just not his.
Okay.
And can our headings be just kind of, as you say, discuss internal validity, external validity, and we can just kind of go through everything you said to touch on and use as a heading, so we're hitting every single point.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, Dr. Walker.
Yes.
Those questions, I see internal validity, describe the 3 casual criteria, but are all of those questions right there where we're supposed to be answering, or is it in the rubric? Like, I don't see all the questions that you just talked about.
It's in the rubric.
Yeah, some of them are in the rubric, but they're all in the words that are the assignment. That's what I was reading.
Okay.
When I pulled up the rubric, I just went right down the list of when he talked about
that
it.
will do it, because that's how I'll grade it, is I'll have the rubric open. So.
Okay.
I didn't see a page length requirement. Is there one?
There is not. That's Abraham Lincoln's legs, for those of you who are here for that discussion. I need for it to be long enough to make it clear that you understand what I've asked you to understand. Lacey may do that in half as many words as Lauren. I don't know. I will tell you that less than a page is never, ever, ever going to cut it. You know, I need to know that you understand this stuff, and you can't get there from here without using words. And so you need to use words, and lots of them. But one quick last thing on that. You're not going to go to work the first day as an MSW and be handed a rubric with a page length on it for your first whatever, your client assessment. It just doesn't work that way. Your boss, your colleagues are going to want to know what's going on with your client. And you've got to write enough that they can get it. Some of you have heard the story of the time I was doing case reviews for Children's Protective Service. And I was reading along, and when you do case reviews, you go back 6 or 8 months and you read every single page. So I'm reading along, and I'm not at the beginning, I'm in the middle, and I come to after the incident with the gun. What? How come the incident with the gun is not outlined in the case review stuff? You know? And you can't just leave that stuff out. You've got to put the important stuff in. Well, the same thing applies here.
For those of you looking for the Sanchez family, I did find it. She put it in the announcements, and she said, this is the first announcement, and it's a doozy, and it's at the very bottom, and it's a link to the Sanchez family. Sorry, I was going through it, looking and looking. Sorry, Jane, I'm not very patient.
I knew that I had broken my rule and let the Sanchez's out of their cage early, but
thank you.
You're welcome. And you'll like it.
But we're not required to use them.
You are not required.
You may also use someone from any other realm.
You certainly can. You certainly
can. I am pretty clear on all the points in the major content and the concepts, except I can't seem to put into my own words so that I can understand statistical validity conclusion. And the more articles I read about it, the more confused I get. And
I'm just back up to the fact that it's not statistical validity conclusion, it's statistical conclusion validity, which is a really much clearer. When you get to a grasping of it, you'll see why I said that. And I'm more than happy to talk to you about it. I don't think we want to do it now. I would suggest you look at that social research net dot, I don't know, that one, the one that I've recommended a couple of times, because it has really clear, not always concise, but really clear examples and explanations of terms.
Okay.
And if you put statistical conclusion validity into the search box, that one will pop up fairly soon, fairly near the top, that website, socialresearchnet.org. I don't know, something like that. Social research is in there because I always think it sounds weird, but that's it.
It's socialresearchmethods.net.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. See, that's why it's so cool to have class, because okay.
So after this week, I'm really excited that I only have this one class because I didn't realize 3 assignments in the same week. I was like, you guys are talking about this due and this due, so I looked it up really quick, and I'm like, okay, that means I need to hurry up. Not that I try to wait till the last minute, but I mean, you know, even a little bit more so this week, obviously.
And it was a week with a holiday in it. Ash looks like he's watching a train wreck. Are you doing okay?
Yeah, it's all good. It's just I've got a busy week, and so what I'm doing is I've got Word documents open for each of the things we're talking about, and I'm cramming notes into those Word documents so that I won't have time to go watch the video. I can just look at my Word documents.
Somebody, I don't know anybody for sure, but somebody might send you $5 if you posted those somewhere. I don't know.
I don't know. Sometimes I don't use the best language.
Well, okay, what else? It's 13 minutes till. What else you want to know? Okay, then I'm going to persuade you to look at, hold on a minute, question formulation, because it is such a crucial concept.
Are you talking about a specific assignment in the
Assignment 2, which is due September 17th.
Okay, just
Courtney, you're so funny because your eyes are just going back and forth on the screen. Okay, so I'm going to just walk through it. You might want to make a note or two. I don't know. So keep calm and formulate your research question. And as you're looking stuff up, particularly in things like Google Scholar, Christina's probably still got her panties in a wad over statistical validity conclusion versus statistical conclusion validity, but it matters. And question formulation is like a thing. It's a real thing. You can, in your head, think of it as making up questions or organizing questions, but when you're Google Scholaring it or looking it up, you want the word formulation in there, because that goes along with evidence-based practice. It's question formulation. It's like a thing. So what you're going to want to do is use at least 3 sources for how to formulate questions. So I think I suggested your text, one of the articles here, and the stuff you find when you put question formulation in social work practice into the search box for Google Scholar, right? Okay, everybody with me there? So there's 3 sources. Now, when we talk about APA in your reference page, there's 3 sources right there, right? Everybody with me there? Okay. So then the next item is, gosh, I'm glad whoever said that I should tape this said it. And 4 sources for how to carry out the practice. The primary one you think you might want to use. So let's say, and Jane, it's okay if it's somebody else, but let's say we're going to use Mr. Sanchez, and let's say that the primary intervention we've identified is brushing his teeth. So you're going to want to look up middle-aged Hispanic male machismo issues, toothbrushing. There's your intervention. And then it probably wouldn't, but it could bring up 15 techniques to get him to brush his teeth, right? So if you get 0, reformulate your question. I mean, we're clearly not going to use the toothbrush, but you know what I mean. If you have a good idea on an intervention and you don't come up with anything at Campbell or Cochrane or Google Scholar or Miller Library or ERIC or PsycInfo, I mean, any of the good sites, right? So if you look at all of them and you come up with interventions. That's your 4 sources on how to carry out the practice. That's whatever it is. And here, the first one of these is the Campbell collaboration. And then the second one was where I looked up some other stuff and went through Google to get there. And then there's another one from Campbell. And then there's that last one is the one that says insocialwork.org. All I remember is the one that was in there didn't work, and when I went to change it, that was cool, so I used it, whatever it was. And then there's some pictures on how, for example, Pico works to help you ask your question. Pico allows you to formulate your question in a way that's very likely to get some good results back.
Can you clarify? So are we writing this using the articles and then formulating the question? So we already have, like, let's say I say that one of the Sanchez's, I haven't looked at this, so I'm totally making it up, would do really well with DBT therapy. And I say that my intervention is DBT therapy. And I look up the articles about, teenage anxiety and DBT therapy. And I look those up, and then I put those
Hispanic adolescents. I mean, you're gonna, because otherwise you're gonna get a million. Because you are likely to get a million. I'm not kidding.
Okay, in Hispanic adolescents, and I put that in, and then I write where I found those articles, or I summarize the articles, or I'm not sure what to do with the articles.
I got to go back and see what I said. Okay, so tell me stuff. The rubric at the bottom says uses at least 3 sources, identifies 4 sources for carrying out the practice, identifies the practice, and then you have your reference page. Your actual questions have to be in there, and these are not in the best order. I apologize for that, but they're not. They're not in the best order in the rubric. But you're going to want to tell me what you looked up and what you found, basically. So you're going to have the information about how to do it. You're going to have some of that information, because what you're going to have when you're finished with this assignment is you're going to have identified your questions, which are exactly what Courtney just said. That would be a question, but you got to have more than one question.
So are we using the same kind of questions? So am I still talking about the same theme, like in Hispanic adolescents DBT, or do I switch to like
okay, so you can
therapy?
You can stick with DBT, but the problem there is when you go to prune it in the next assignments, you don't have anything left to prune because all your tree is DBT. Does that make sense?
So we should start out broad.
Yes, absolutely. Exactly. Start out broad. And that's why you're going to have a million hits the first time. Then you're going to back up until you only have 6 or 7 or 12 or something like that. And you're going to use the ones that make the best sense to you. That's why we looked at critical appraisal this coming week, because you're going to want to be critically appraising, at least inside your head, even if you don't use the template, critically appraising inside your head what it is you find. Does it seem right? Yeah, Amy?
Is a valid question, say I'm going to do one of my renal patients, would one of these 5 questions be how to address non-compliance with a renal diet in a 70-year-old Hispanic male?
It definitely could be. Let's go back really quickly to PICO, and this is from your assignment in the box. So what is PICO? What is my research question in terms of the problem? typically the patient, you know, like there's your Hispanic male adolescent depression. One of these kids has a question about his gender identity. So then the intervention, what are you going to try? And then a comparison, what are you going to compare? Does the study look at, for example, if we're looking at that adolescent with the gender issues, are we looking, is the article looking at Hispanic adolescents with gender issues and Hispanic adolescents who are comfortable with their identified gender? And then outcome, what is the optimal outcome for this patient? That's one PICO example. You're going to find other PICO examples as you look at this stuff. Campbell is going to drive you crazy because there's so many options. Campbell is a medical site, but it's, you know, behavioral health has blurred into physical health. And so Campbell and Cochrane both have some really good behavioral health research.
So I guess I'm back on the question thing. Amy, I like your idea of the, you know, renal patient, but would you, so those 5 questions, is that our narrowing down? So we start broad and then we say, then we move to question 2. And then I looked up this and then I narrow down even more.
Okay, not necessarily. You may have, it could be like when, a minute ago when somebody said, well, mine doesn't have to be like hers. It could be that way, or it could be 5 different questions. Like you might look at DBT, you might look at CBT, you might look at M&Ms for breakfast, you know, you might look at a yoga retreat. I mean, you could look at 5 different things. I would stick with one client, you know, otherwise you're going to drown. But does that help?
Yes, that's actually much better than what I was thinking.
Good. Okay, 2 minutes, Christina.
Okay, so I guess from bouncing off of Courtney, so if one of my Sanchez's has a substance abuse problem, and so the purpose of the question formulation assignment is to think of several different questions on how I might address his problem, but not necessarily in this assignment identifying the exact intervention. I'm proposing several different options on this one assignment.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And the bottom line of what you just said is that by the end of by the paper, you're going to probably have one intervention. And you're going to know how you got there. You're going to know, that's the whole evidence-based business. You're going to know how you got to the notion of a yoga retreat as the best solution.
Okay.
So you're basically just prepping us for how we go about finding the best solution to get there. So you're having us do the legwork now for each assignment.
Yes.
Got it.
And they will, after assignment 1, they will all pour into the signature assignment. And you'll knit together the rough edges and sand them off so that your paper flows smoothly and covers everything in the rubric. If I were you, I'd have that rubric for the final assignment printed up and thumbtacked up somewhere so that I could keep it in mind.
How do you feel about using the Mayo Clinic for sources?
Oh, great.
Okay. That's just been one of my favorites.
No, it's great.
Okay.
I didn't hear the question, sorry.
Use Mayo Clinic as a source.
Sorry, one more time. Maypoint?
No, Mayo Clinic.
Oh, Mayo Clinic. Oh, sorry. Okay.
You guys could come and visit me. I'm right at Mayo Clinic. That's where I did my internship.
Wow. Now that is cool.
It was pretty cool.
It is 7:01 in my town. Anything else? Okay, now text me. you know, ask questions. I will answer them. You might get a different answer from somebody else, but that's okay. I promise. All right. Anything else? All right. I will see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
I got to figure out how to stop